The journey does not begin at the gates, but on the shimmering hem of the atmosphere itself. You are walking upon the Bifrost. To the mortal eye, it is a rainbow, but to your feet, it is a rainbow. But to your feet, it is a bridge of pressurized light, vibrating with the frequency of 1,000 sun flares. Each step you take sends a ripple of color outward, violet bleeding into indigo, emerald crashing into crimson. Listen to the sound of the void. To your left and right, the great abyss of Ginnungagap yawns, a silence so profound it has a physical weight. But the bridge hums a counter-melody. It is a low, thrumming cello note that resonates in your chest, rattling the marrow of your bones. The air here is thin and cold, tasting of ancient ice and the first sparks of creation. As you draw closer to the city, the golden walls of Asgard begin to dominate the horizon. They do not merely reflect the twilight, they seem to generate it. The stone is a celestial alloy, forged in the hearts of dying stars and hauled to the heights of the world by the Aesir themselves. You see the microscopic flecks of mica and diamond embedded in the masonry, catching the dying rays of the sun and splintering them into 1 billion tiny stars. The great gate, the Urdr gate, looms. It is made of ironwood from the first forest, bound in bands of uru metal that pulse with a faint, rhythmic heat. As you approach, the gatekeepers remain invisible, yet the massive valves groan open with a sound like a shifting tectonic plate. The smell of the city rushes out to meet you. It is the scent of 1,000,000 years of peace. Honeyed mead, roasted meats, mountain heather, and the sharp, clean scent of ozone left behind by a lightning strike. Step inside. The transition from the bridge to the city is like moving from a dream into a deeper, more vibrant reality. The ground beneath your feet shifts from light to solid, polished brass. The avenue of the Aesir stretches before you, a river of metal polished to such a high sheen that you can see the constellations of the overhead sky reflected beneath your boots. Every footfall produces a chime, a resonance that echoes across the golden plazas. To your right lie the groves of Idun. Here the trees are not made of wood, but of a living silver that remains supple in the wind. The leaves clatter together like delicate wind chimes made of glass. Each apple hanging from the boughs glows with a soft, internal luminescence, the golden fruit of immortality. The air in the garden is 10 degrees warmer than the street. It smells of crushed apples, damp earth, and eternal spring. You see a bench of white marble veined with gold. Sit for a moment, feel the texture of the stone. It is surprisingly warm, having soaked up the divine radiance of the day. In the distance you hear the laughter of the Valkyries as they return from the lower realms, their armor clinking like silver coins in a silk bag. Their horses' hooves make a rhythmic clip-clop on the brass streets, a sound that signals the transition from the labor of the day to the rest of the evening. The twilight deepens. The sky is no longer blue, but a bruised, magnificent purple, the color of a king's velvet cloak. The clouds are rimmed with fire, holding on to the sun's memory long after it has dipped below the world's edge. Continue your walk toward the center of the realm. You are approaching Gladsheim, the Hall of Joy. The scale of the building is impossible to comprehend from a distance. Its pillars are the size of ancient oaks, carved with the intricate, twisting patterns of the world serpent. Each knot and curve in the metal tells a story, the binding of Fenris, the forging of Mjolnir, the sacrifice of the All-Father's Eye at the Well of Mimir. As you enter the portico, the sound of the city fades, replaced by a holy, echoing silence. The ceiling is so high it has its own weather patterns. Faint wisps of golden clouds drift among the rafters, caught in a perpetual dance. The floor is a mosaic of every stone found in the 9 realms. Obsidian from the volcanic pits of Muspelheim, granite from the mountains of Midgard, white marble from the elven forests of Alfheim. Walk past the empty thrones. Here is the seat of Thor, massive and rugged, the armrests scarred by the heavy resting of his hammer. There is the throne of Frigga, draped in silks that seem to shift and change colour like oil on water. The air here is heavy with the scent of beeswax, old parchment, and the lingering smoke of incense burned in honour of the ancestors. It feels as though the walls are breathing, exhaling the wisdom of the ages. You find yourself walking slower, your heart rate sinking with the slow tectonic pulse of the hall. The light is dimming now, shifting from amber to a deep, royal indigo. The shadows in the corners of the hall aren't dark. They are saturated with colour. You hear the distant clink of a blacksmith's hammer from the pits of Nidavellir far below, a rhythmic cling-clang that serves as the ticking clock of the universe. To your left, the fountain of Mimir's shadow flows. The water doesn't splash, it flows like liquid mercury, reflecting not your face, but the potential of what you might become. You look into the pool and see stars you have never named. The architecture here defies the laws of Midgard. Spires thin as needles reach up to prick the first emerging stars, while massive buttresses carved into the likeness of ravens and wolves hold up the very sky itself. The air grows warmer as you approach the great square. The smell of wood smoke, specifically mountain ash and aged oak, wafts from the hearths of the lesser halls. It is a comforting scent, the smell of a home that has stood for 10,000 years and will stand for 10,000 more. Leave the stillness of Gladsheim and begin the climb toward the heights. The staircase to Valhalla is a marvel of engineering and ego. Each step is a shield taken from a fallen foe, laid flat and enchanted to never rust or slip. The metal is cold now as the night air begins to settle. As you climb, look back over your shoulder. The city of Asgard is unfolding below you like a map of the soul. You can see the forge fires of the dwarves in the lower districts, glowing a fierce, steady orange. You can see the silver threads of the rivers that feed the great moat. The lanterns are being lit in the windows of the villas, captured sparks of the aurora, swaying in glass orbs. The wind picks up here. It carries the salt of the cosmic oceans, the great outer ocean that surrounds the world disk. It is a wild, salty smell that contrasts with the refined perfumes of the inner city. Your hair whips around your face. The sound of the wind through the spears that serve as Valhalla's rafters is a high, mourning whistle, like a flute played by a giant. You reach the great balcony. This is where the All-Father stands to survey the realms. From here, you can see the faint, shimmering veil that separates Asgard from the stars. The stars here are not distant dots. They are vibrant, pulsing entities, some rotating slowly like glowing gears of a celestial clock. Now, the The scale of the world shifts. You stand before the Hall of the Slain, Valhalla. Its roof is thatched with golden shields, and its rafters are spears. But at twilight, the boisterous feast has moved deep into the interior. On the balcony, there is only the wind. You stand at the edge of the world. Above you, the branches of Yggdrasil are visible, glowing with a faint, bioluminescent green. The stars of Asgard hang like low-hanging fruit, pulsing with a slow, rhythmic light. You feel a sense of profound insignificance, and yet a strange, overwhelming sense of belonging. The gold of the halls has absorbed the heat of the day and now radiates it back into your skin, a gentle warmth that defies the oncoming night. Listen closely. Beyond the wind there is the sound of the Einherjar, the noble dead, not in frantic combat, but sharing flagons of mead that catch the last rays of the dying sun. Their laughter is low, a rumbling bass note that provides the heartbeat of the city. You pass the silhouette of a raven perched upon a golden railing. Its eyes are not black, but gold, reflecting the entire history of the world in a single glance. It does not fly away, it simply watches, a silent witness to your passage. The twilight is stretching, refusing to give way to total darkness. In Asgard, the light lingers, clinging to the gold as if it were afraid to leave such beauty behind. The sun is gone, the gold of Asgard has transitioned into a deep copper. This is the hour of the world tree. Look up. Extending through the very centre of the city is a branch of Yggdrasil, so massive it looks like a mountain range suspended in the sky. The bark of the tree glows with a faint, bioluminescent moss. It pulses in time with the universe's heart. You can hear the rustle of leaves, the sighs of houses, a sound like a distant ocean wave crashing against a shore of silk. This is the source of all life, the anchor of the realms, and sitting beneath its shadow at twilight is the closest a soul can come to absolute peace. The city is quiet now. The feasting in Valhalla has moved to the inner chambers, and only a muffled, rhythmic drumming reaches your ears, the heartbeat of the party, far away and harmless. The brass streets have cooled, the air is crisp, smelling of frost, starlight, and the sap of the great ash. You find a stone bench carved from the heart of a fallen star and sit. The vibration of the city has slowed. The hum of the Bifrost is now a low lullaby, a whisper intended for the ears of gods. You close your eyes, and for a moment, the boundaries between yourself and the realm dissolve. You are the gold. You are the twilight. You are the ancient stone and the eternal wind. The great hall breathes with you. One breath in, the scent of old pines and ozone. One breath out, the peace of a kingdom that knows no end. As the last sliver of the sun's ghost vanishes, a soft silver frost begins to form on the edges of the golden railings. The stars take their full command of the sky. You realize that Asgard is not just a place of war and myth, but a place of profound rest. The twilight here lasts for an eternity, a lingering moment of transition where anything is possible. You lean against the railing, your hands resting on the cold, golden metal. You are a guest in the cradle of the gods, and the night is safe. The golden hour has surrendered to the blue hour. The shadows of the gods stretch long and thin across the courtyards. In the distance you hear a single long note from a horn. Not the gala horn that signals the end, but the evening call that signals the closing of the inner wards. The gold of Asgard doesn't disappear in the dark. It smoulders. It turns into the colour of a dying campfire. a deep, internal heat that promises protection against the cold of the 9 realms. Take a final breath, fill your lungs with the ozone of the Bifrost, the honey of the mead, and the ancient dust of the world tree. The night has claimed the golden halls, but they do not sleep. They wait, glowing in the dark, a beacon of order in the vast, chaotic night of the cosmos. Slow your pace. The walk is finished. The echoes of your footsteps remain in the brass, a part of the city's story forever. Close your eyes. The gold is still there, behind your eyelids, shimmering in the dark. Sleep now, under the boughs of the world tree. The golden halls will be here when the sun rises again, more brilliant than before, waiting for your return to the light. Close your eyes. Leave the world of man behind. Forget the warmth of the sun and the steady ticking of the clock on your wall. We are descending. We are traveling beneath the crust of the earth, past the roots of mountains, past the forgotten tombs of giants, down to the very foundation of existence. Here the air does not move. It is heavy, thick with the scent of wet stone, ancient moss, and something sharper, the metallic tang of destiny. You're standing at the base of Yggdrasil, the world tree. Its roots are not mere wood. They are the pillars of reality, thick as continents, gnarled and scarred by the teeth of the dragon Nidhogg. And there, nestled in the deepest hollow, is the Well of Urdr. The water does not ripple. It is a mirror of absolute blackness, reflecting a sky that does not exist. This is the source. This is where time begins, not as a linear path, but as a pool. And standing beside this water are the 3 who were, who are, and who shall be. The Norns. They do not look like the crones of your fairy tales. They are tall, their skin the colour of twilight, their eyes containing the swirling nebulae of distant galaxies. Urdr, the eldest, gazes backward into the depths of the well. Vithandi, the present, stands tall, her hands moving with a blurring speed. And Skuld, the youngest, stands veiled, her eyes fixed on a horizon that has not yet been born. Listen, do you hear it? It is not a song sung with voices, it is the sound of the loom, a rhythmic, grinding thrum that vibrates through the soles of your feet. Thump, slide, click. The Norns are weaving. They reach into the black waters of the well and pull out strands of light. These are not threads of wool. They are the lives of every living thing. A golden thread for a king, a grey thread for a beggar, a shimmering silver cord for a poet. Each thread is a soul, a story, a heartbeat. And as the Norns weave, they sing the song of fate. It is a melody that has no beginning and no end. It is the sound of the wind through 1,000 forests. It is the sound of 1,000 battles. It is the first cry of a newborn and the final rattle of the dying. The moisture from the well clings to the threads, making them slick and heavy. Urdr pulls a strand that is dark, almost obsidian. It represents a life of hardship. But as she passes it to Vithandi, the thread begins to glow with a faint, internal heat. The Norns do not judge the quality of the thread, they only ensure its place in the pattern. The cavern walls are lined with the finished portions of the tapestry, stretching upward into the darkness for miles. If you look closely, you can see the rise and fall of entire civilizations depicted in a few inches of woven light. The rise of Rome is a crimson swirl. The fall of kings is a jagged line of black. And somewhere, in the middle of a vast unmapped section, is a single tiny thread that belongs to you. It is vibrating, still wet from the well waiting to be pulled across the shuttle. Now comes Vathandi. Her name is a heartbeat. She is the happening. While Urdr looks to the depths, Vathandi looks at the thread as it crosses the shuttle. Her hands are a blur of motion, capturing the lightning-fast spark of the present moment. Every choice you make, every word you speak, every breath you draw is a new pass of the shuttle. The loom groans under the tension. The song rises in tempo now, a frantic, driving percussion that mimics the pulse of a hunted stag. This is the forge of reality. Here the threads of millions intersect. Your thread crosses that of a stranger in a crowded market. For a microsecond, the two strands twist together, creating a tiny knot of shared experience before pulling apart again. Vathandi's eyes are wide, capturing everything. She sees the soldier falling on a distant field. She sees the mother cradling her child. She sees the star collapsing in a far-off quadrant of the cosmos. To her, there is no small event. Every intersection is vital. If one thread snaps too early, the entire tapestry shudders. The scent here changes. It is no longer just wet stone. It is the smell of wood smoke, of salt spray, of blood, and of roses. It is the smell of life in its most chaotic, vibrant state. The song of the Norns becomes a cacophony of a billion voices, all shouting, whispering, and crying at once. And yet, beneath the noise, the rhythm remains. Thump, slide, click. The Norns do not falter. They do not tire. They have been weaving since the first spark of Muspelheim hit the ice of Niflheim, and they will weave until the stars are extinguished. Observe the way Vathandi handles the frayed threads. These are the souls in crisis, those whose lives are pulling apart at the seams. She does not discard them. With a grace that is terrifying to behold, she tucks the loose fibres back into the weave, strengthening them with the threads of others. This is the secret of the Norns. No one is woven alone. We are held together by the proximity of our neighbours in the loom. A father's strength becomes the warp for a daughter's fragile thread. A teacher's wisdom becomes the backing for a student's bright, new cord. The tapestry is a work of collective weight. As Vathandi pushes the iron comb down to tighten the weave, the sound is like a thunderclap in the small cavern. The present is being locked into the past. What was fluid and wet is now dry and set in stone. There is a finality to her movements that sends a shiver through the very roots of Yggdrasil. You feel it in your own chest. The realization that the now is constantly being hammered into the forever. Then there is Skuld, the youngest, the one who is debt. She stands at the far end of the loom where the threads have not yet been woven into the main body of the cloth. She holds a pair of shears made of obsidian, and her eyes are hidden behind a veil of grey mist. She does not sing like the others. Her voice is a whisper, the sound of dry leaves skittering across a tombstone. She looks at the threads that are coming, the possibilities that hang in the air like unfallen rain. She reaches out and touches a thread that hasn't reached the shuttle yet. It flickers. It is a ghost of a thread. This is the future, not a set path, but a series of potential outcomes. Skuld's role is the most terrifying of all. She decides when the weaving must end. She watches the length of the strand, measuring it against a scale that only she can see. When the debt of a life is paid, when the purpose of a soul is fulfilled, she brings the shears together Snip. The sound of the shears is the loudest thing in the cavern. It cuts through the music, through the rhythm of the loom, through the very air. When a thread is cut, the loose end is tucked into the back of the tapestry, hidden from view, but forever part of the structure. The song shifts again. It becomes a dirge, a slow, mournful melody in a minor key. But Skuld does not weep. She knows that for the weaving to continue, there must be an end. The old threads must make room for the new. She reaches for a thread of brilliant violet, a thread of great genius. It is short, too short, it seems to your mortal eyes. You want to cry out, to ask her to stay her hand. But Skuld is indifferent to potential. She is only interested in the debt. The violet thread is cut, and the energy of its ending ripples backward through the loom, vibrating the threads of everyone that person touched. This is how we feel grief. It is the vibration of a snapped cord travelling through the web to find us. Skuld turns her veiled head toward you. You cannot see her eyes, but you feel the weight of her gaze. She is not looking at your past or your present. She is looking at the remaining length of your thread. She is calculating the tension. She is waiting for the moment when your story meets her obsidian blades. The song of the three sisters harmonizes here, a haunting chord that suggests that the end is not a tragedy, but the necessary completion of the pattern. Every morning the Norns take water from the Well of Urdr and mix it with the white clay that lies around the pool. They take this slurry and smear it over the roots of Yggdrasil. You see them now pausing in their weaving. Their movements are slow and ritualistic. This is why the world tree does not rot. This is why reality does not crumble under the weight of time and the gnawing of the dragon below. The mud is the essence of fate itself. It is the distilled memory of everything that has ever happened turned into a healing balm. As they apply the clay, the tree shudders. The leaves high above in the realms of the gods rustle with a sound like a distant thunder. The Norns are the caretakers of existence. Without their song, without their loom, without their daily labour at the roots, the 9 realms would collapse into the void. The scent here is different now. It is the smell of wet earth, of minerals, of the very beginning of the world. It is the smell of life being sustained against impossible odds. You see the scars on the roots where Nidhogg has bitten deep, trying to end the cycle. The Norns fill these wounds with the white clay, smoothing them over with their long, slender fingers. They are healers as much as they are weavers. The song of the Norns becomes a chant, a low, guttural repetition of ancient names and forgotten runes. It is a grounding sound. It pulls you down, connecting you to the earth, to the fundamental reality of your own mortality. As they work the clay, they whisper to the tree. They tell it the stories they have woven that day. They feed the tree with the experiences of mortals, the joy of a wedding, the bitterness of a betrayal, the simple peace of a summer afternoon. All of this is fed into the roots of Yggdrasil. The tree breathes in our lives. It grows stronger on our history. You see a drop of the white slurry fall back into the well, creating the first ripple you have seen on that black surface. The circle is complete. The water becomes the thread becomes the tapestry becomes the memory, and the memory becomes the clay that protects the tree. There is no waste in the kingdom of the Norns. Even the smallest broken thread is ground down to become part of the preservative mud. You are eternal, not because your thread never ends, but because your essence is used to hold up the world. The work continues, it never stops. The Norns do not sleep, they do not eat. They are the personification of the process. As you prepare to leave the cavern to climb back up the routes toward the world of light and fleeting moments, the song reaches a crescendo. It is no longer three separate voices or the mechanical sound of the loom. It is a single, unified roar of existence. It is the Aum of the North. It is the sound of everything happening at once. You look back one last time. The Norns are silhouetted against the glowing tapestry. They look small against the vastness of the work they have created, and yet they are the masters of it. The shadow of the world tree falls over them, and for a moment they seem to vanish into the bark itself. They are the tree. The tree is the well is the song. You begin your ascent. As you climb, the air grows warmer and thinner. The scent of the well fades, replaced by the smell of pine needles and wood smoke, but the rhythm stays with you. Thump, slide, click. It is in your heartbeat. It is in the step of your feet on the forest floor. You realize that you cannot escape the loom, for you are the loom. You are the weaver and the woven. Think of the Norns when you look at the stars. Those lights are the glow of the tapestry reflecting off the vault of the sky. Think of them when you make a difficult choice. Vithandi is waiting, her shuttle poised. Think of them when you face the end, knowing that Skuld's shears are but the final movement in a masterpiece of weaving. The song of the Norns is the only true history of the world. Everything else is just a story we tell ourselves to pass the time. Beneath the ground, beneath the roots, the truth is being woven in gold and silver, in shadow and light. The final note of the song is a low, vibrating hum that lingers in your ears long after you have reached the surface. It is a reminder. You are part of the great pattern. Your thread is strong, your color is unique, and the Norns are watching, singing your name into the fabric of eternity. Walk now into the twilight of your own world, but walk with the knowledge of the well. The weaving is beautiful, the pattern is just, and the song never ends. Thump, slide, click, forever and ever and ever.